All right, this Medicine Hat City Council meeting of February 18th, 2025 is called to order at 6:32 p.m. And we will begin with a moment for prayer or reflection. The City of Medicine Hat acknowledges that we live and work on treaty territory. The city pays respects to all Indigenous peoples and honors their past, present, and future. We recognize and respect their cultural heritages and relationships to the land. Adoption of the previous, of regular council meeting minutes, February 3rd, 2025. Any errors or omissions, objections? Seeing none, we will adopt the minutes as presented. With respect to the agenda, any additions or objections? Councillor Sharps?
Yes, thank you. I have a notice of motion that I will be doing.
Can I get a seconder?
Or I'll second that.
All right, we'll vote on the amendment to the agenda. And that's unanimous. Any other additions or objections? Okay, seeing none, we will adopt the agenda as amended. Are there any councillor announcements today? Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, and through the chair, first I'll apologize to my colleagues and the city. I was not able to attend last day. I was quite ill, so I'm sorry I missed in the discussion, and to the presenters that day, I'm sorry that I missed the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions. But that's not my announcement. I just wanted to pass along my congratulations to the Parks and Rec Department for the wonderful Family Day festivities that took place. It sounds like it was a really wonderful experience and must have taken an awful lot of work and a very long day. So I just wanted to pass along my congratulations, and to all those attended, I hope you really enjoyed yourself and will attend again next year. Thank you.
Any other councillor announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that someone would like, any council member would like to pull? Councillor Sharps?
I know, shocking. Can we pull 8.5, please, the jurisdictional scan relating to the KVA range in the medium commercial class?
Yes, we can. Anything else that someone would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. Can I get a motion to accept, to receive for information the consent agenda items with the exception as amended, excluding 8.5?
I can give that one.
I'll second. Thank you. So we will vote on acceptance of the consent agenda items as amended. That's unanimous. With respect to section 8.5, Councillor Sharps, this is the jurisdictional scan.
Thank you, sorry. Through the chair, so I might have to, I made some amendments here, but would you like the background information and then my motion altogether?
We can discuss this item and then you can make your notice of motion during
Sure.
notice of motions?
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
So just a bit of background information. On December 16th, 2024, City Council instructed administration to conduct a jurisdictional scan regarding the KVA range in the medium commercial class. The consultant's findings indicated that the demand energy for Medicine Hat's medium commercial rate class is comparable to that of similar jurisdictions with some understandable nuances. I copied that right from the briefing note, just so everybody knows. The analysis focused on 6 municipalities where the medium commercial classification begins at a demand range of 25 kVA. However, after reviewing the data, it appears that 50 kVA should be considered the minimum threshold for medium commercial, as anything below 50 kVA still falls under the small commercial category, which is based on kilowatt usage. So I will do my notice of motion after, but that's the background.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, we will move on to new business. So the first item is rural renewal program status, and that is supported by economic development. And Ms. Moore is in, Director Moore is here to provide a brief overview. You go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Good evening, Council. I'm here to share a recommendation that we are providing as the Economic Development Department to pause the rural renewal application intake with intention of reviewing its status in January of 2026. I'm just going to give a little bit of background. So the Rural Renewal Program designation was approved in January of 2023 for a period of 3 years. It was in later of 2023, we got together with different municipalities in the region. Right now, there's a partnership between the City of Medicine Hat, Cypress County, Town of Redcliffe, and Town of Bow Island. And we are serving as the city as a service provider to be able to provide employers with access to the Rural Renewal Program. Recent changes to the federal policy around immigration has significantly altered the opportunity for employers for immigration. And so we are now at a place where we've got a decreased amount of allocations for employers to be able to access, it's the candidates are able to access opportunity for, where am I here? Candidates are not able to access the to get the application approved, they have to be able to go into an EOI, which is an expression of interest, and the EOI is extremely full. So EOI actually, the actual EOI numbers are a backlog of 4,560 for this year, and we've got another 4,875 applications being added to that backlog. So that basically means that we've got a maximum of 315 EOI, 315 opportunities for those candidates to access this program. And so basically what that means is that the opportunity for an employer to actually access this program and for those candidates to be able to get the to actually get their status approved, it's very, very little, like there's hardly any chance that those employers are actually going to get that far. So what that means is that we are, by continuing to participate in the program, we are actually, I guess, we're managing false expectations. We're creating false expectations that these employers are actually going to be able to access the program. And so I think we've made a decision that we think it's best that we recommend that the program be on hold until January 2026, when we can reevaluate based on what those immigration numbers will be at that time. That's, I'll take questions.
Thank you. Councillor Knodel?
Thank you, Mayor Clark, through the chair to Director McLean-Moore. So just for clarification, we have in our package the recommendation of review September 2025. Is it a typo, or will it be 2026?
Yeah, 2026.
Okay.
Was that the
Just says
was that the actual recommended motion that you have?
Yeah, so it says recommendation that council pause the rural renewal stream application intake for a period of 6 months with the intention of reviewing its status in September 2025.
So I have, mine is different, so I'm not sure where the error was there. I have a recommendation that City Council pause the rural renewal stream application intake with the intention of reviewing its status in January 2026 or if significant changes are made at the provincial or federal level.
So what is the 6 months? Because January wouldn't be 6 months.
Interesting.
It's just a
Okay.
typo, obviously. So it's going to be January 2026.
It's January 2026.
Thank you.
But that is not 6 months from now.
No, so the whole motion had changed. So we had changed this motion in the latest briefing note. So,
Counselor Dumanowski.
Thank you, through the chair. Director McLean-Moore, thank you for the information, brief but important. I guess my only question, simplistically, and I'm judging myself here, I'm trying to understand, I understand that the necessity or the desire to pause for the reasons you've outlined, I won't repeat, but is this a process that other municipalities you see or foresee doing the same? I mean, at some point, I guess, and that where the simplistic part for me comes in is if we're in our attempt to manage expectation or not create a false expectation around the timelines that we can't control, if we put a pause, are we, by doing so, essentially putting a pause on our any applications that would be going forward, which just furthers their adjudication or review at the appropriate time? Is this something that others are following? Not that we have to follow, but is this something we're doing unilaterally, or is this, do you get a sense that others are doing this across the province?
yeah, thanks for that. Through the chair, what I can say is that, first of all, we will be processing any application that is already in the queue. So that will probably take us until the end of May. We've done the math, and we think probably we should be through what is already in the queue by the end of May. It would just mean that as of the time of this motion, we will no longer accept new applications from employers. That's the first thing. The second thing is, at this point in time, the province has stated that it is up to each community to decide if they want to if they want to continue with the program. At this point in time, 11 out of the 36 designated communities are now on pause.
Sorry, just briefly, could you repeat that last, how many communities?
11 out of 36
Okay.
are now on pause.
Okay, and if I may, Your Worship, it's not that I take comfort in knowing that 11 out of 36 are doing the same, but I guess my curiosity is around the practicality of doing that, but I understand the motivation here, so I won't question that. Are we in essence, and maybe I'm not getting it right, but are we in essence giving the bigger centers higher prioritization, even though there's a queue? I mean, if there are less applications coming into the hopper, unless they pause, they essentially are creating are taking up that vacuum of space, limited as it may be, and are able to put their applications in while we are on pause. So that's the part I'm a little bit puzzled by.
Through the chair, yes, I guess that could be the case, that the larger centers, it's not necessarily larger centers versus smaller. There's 8 different streams, and so it all depends on what stream that the employer or the candidate is applying through. So yes, if some of those streams do cater more to the larger centers, there is an opportunity that could happen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Robbins.
Thank you, and through the chair, Director McLean-Moore, I just had a question about our partners that you've mentioned, the Cypress County and Town of Redcliffe and Town of Bow Island, and if you could highlight anything that they might be doing that's similar to this motion, if it's passed today.
Sure. Through the chair, we have had a meeting with the Rural Renewal Steering Committee, which is made up of an individual from each municipality. Now, there were only 2 municipalities represented at the meeting, but I did send out. I did send out a notice that we were going to be bringing this to council, and I didn't hear anything back. The two individuals that attended the meeting were in favor of us bringing this to council. I will say that out of, there's another rural community, the town of Tabor, who has taken action to pause their program as well.
If this was part of your question, I'm not sure it was, they don't actually have to take council action because this is a relationship that we have with the government, and then they were part of our region. So we are the only one who has to make an official declaration that we're pausing it.
Maybe I'll explain a little bit of the makeup. So the Rural Renewal Steering Committee is made up of one council person per municipality. There is a terms of reference in place that allows that gives certain decision-making authority to that steering committee. But in any decisions that have to do with the actual makeup of the actual program fall on the City of Medicine Hat Council because it's our designation. Yeah.
Councillor Sharps.
Thank you so much. Through the chair, thank you for that. I'm glad to see that we're doing this. I do have a question. It might be technical, so you might have to maybe come back if you have the answers. But so I know that the new numbers are only going to allow for 315 total applications in 2025 out of the 4,000 backlog. So that is a lot of people without status in 2025 potentially. Is there anything that we're doing for all those applicants in the queue that already have an EOI?
Well, through the chair, I checked. There's only 3 that have actually received their provincial nomination. So as of February 3rd, our program has issued 92 candidate endorsement letters. Of the 92, 21 applications have been submitted for processing, and 3 have received provincial nominations. So there's 68 candidates remaining in the EOI pool, and at this point in time, there's nothing that we are doing.
So are we going to be sending them letters to try to find a different way to maintain status? Because with an expression of interest, they maintain status, right? Mm-hmm. If they don't get that expression of interest, they no longer have status, which means that they're illegal. And I don't want this coming back on the city saying, well, I had a EOI or I'm in the pool, because we're hearing this already at the immigration. So I'm just wondering if we're doing something to, or can we do something to ensure that these people are notified that this isn't falling on the city as a responsibility going forward?
So through the chair, are you asking that we notify them that the program is on pause, or are you asking that we notify them that there's that much of a backlog in the expression of interest pool?
How about, what are we notifying them? That would be easier.
Yeah, so at this point in time, I don't think anything changes. Because we're putting the program on pause, nothing changes for those that are already in the expression of interest pool from the City of Medicine Hat's.
Didn't the province also pause?
Nope.
Okay.
This is just a recommended pause from
Yeah.
the City of Medicine Hat, unless you've heard something that I don't know yet.
We have heard, but maybe it's not.
Okay.
It's just, it could be all rumor, right?
Okay.
We're all privy to the same information or lack thereof, so who knows? Okay, just wanted to know, because that would be a lot of people in our area without status and permits.
So to clarify, if someone has already have an EOI, they're part of the 56,000 or the 4,560?
The 46,000 is the backlog. So it's a EOI pool, so they haven't actually been chosen yet. 46,000 are waiting.
And so do they still, their status in that pool will continue? Yes, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
What is a pause? So I understand what the word pause means, but in this case, I thought that this program had time limits around it. if we're pausing, does that mean that we're maintaining our status and we're just not doing anything with that status? And how long does our status continue for?
Through the chair, we were given a three-year designation, and we now and that will take us to January 2026. At that point in time, we have the option of extending for 2 more years. So to answer your question, we are on pause, and that will not change the opportunity to extend in January 2026 if immigration looks different at that time.
So I guess what I would wonder is whether we should potentially move up the date. So if we have to extend in January 2026, perhaps we should revisit it in November or December of next year. There will be a different council then, but just, we don't want to leave it too late and then miss our opportunity potentially.
Yes, through the chair, that was actually, the fact that we are going to have a new council in is why we decided to do January, because it's going to be pretty full couple months for them. And at the same time, I think that, you know, we can open up that review internally as a department in November with possibly maybe a recommendation in January. So maybe the motion needs to be worded a little bit differently. If you think that would be better.
Well, I don't see any further speakers, but I will entertain a motion.
I can do that. So I move that council pause the rural renewal stream application intake for a period of, it's not 6 months though. Okay, there, I do not have my glasses on, sorry. Can we make that bigger,
So
Stephanie?
the motion
Stop it.
requested from the recommendation
Thank you.
is that council pause the rural renewal stream application intake with the intention of reviewing its status in January 2026, or if significant changes are made at the provincial and federal level, it says.
That would be the one. Yeah, thanks.
And that's the motion that you would like to make? Can I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? No. I feel like was and intended or for provincial and federal level?
And or, because it could be both. Through the chair.
Is that an acceptable?
Yeah, I'm happy
Okay.
with that because it literally could be anything.
Okay. All right, seeing no speakers, we'll vote on the motion. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Director McLean-Moore. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is electrical transformer upgrade and replacement. So this was from a notice of motion that was made at last council meeting by Councillor McGrogan. So Councillor McGrogan, do you have a motion to
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, my motion is let it be resolved that City Council directs City Administration to report back to Council by the end of Q2 2025 on the logic, clarity, and fairness of the current transformer replacement process and obligations, especially with regard to how the City of Medicine Hat's policy and/or bylaw compares with practices of other similar providers in clearly and fairly allocating costs and responsibilities.
I'll second that. Andy.
Thank you. Councillor McGrogan, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. I read it last meeting when I introduced the motion. It's a full page. I won't bore everybody with that. I'll just do a quick summary. Basically, the bottom line is our city, of course, owns our own utilities. We own our transformers. Since I've been on council, and I can't speak for other members of council, but I'm sure there's been similar experiences. There's been a lot of questions to me about costs of transformer replacement. So transformers are basically a little electric box in your neighborhood that usually power about 12 houses, and I could have this wrong, but I'm sure that I'll be corrected. So basically that, if one has to be replaced because they're upgrading their electricity, or, maybe their house burns down and they have to upgrade, the neighborhood transformer, that all the costs are borne by the first person that puts the transformer in place. So generally, it sounds like fair and reasonable, but when you think of other people joining onto the transformer, what is the policy? Is there any, money that goes back? And I've had a lot of people that have basically asked these questions, and they feel that they're not getting a clear response. And when checking with other jurisdictions, it appears that they use a different formula. So, and it was part of the budget submissions that went out in 25, 26, that these expenses were to be included. I want to make it clear that I'm not suggesting that the city bear the expenses of the replacement of transformers in neighborhoods, but that they compare with other policies, make sure that we're fair, that there's lots of clarity when a customer walks in the door around what is their responsibility and what isn't. So that's really, I guess, the crux of my motion, is just to get it out there, get it clear, compared to other, I guess, electrical providers that perform the same service in other communities in Alberta and maybe Saskatchewan, whatever, and come back with, hey, this is where we can go on this, that, is kind of in the middle of the road. So not asking to revisit our budget and make it a big budget item, but where can we get to at least demonstrate to our community that it's fair, and when they come to the front counter, they get a policy, a guideline, something that says, here's what it looks like. And the council has had, I guess, some say in it, or at least an approval. Thank you.
Councillor Dumanowski.
Yeah, through the chair, just to weigh in, I know this is the initial conversation, I guess, on this item. I'm pleased it's here. As Councilor McGrogan said, it was part of the budget deliberation, and that wasn't too long ago. The fact of the matter is, it is a public conversation, not a lot, but with a very important sector of our community, and that is the in many cases the conversations I've had are with business personnel, electricians, developers in that regard, who have seen it as a difficult thing to navigate, and certainly a perceived, if not real, impediment for them to move forward with their customers. In some cases are surprised, and I don't want to get too dramatic. I've been accused of that a few times the last few meetings here, but because it is not like, so it's unlike what other service providers across the province are doing. We don't have to be and do the same, but certainly to your point, I think from a apples to apples comparison, it would be it will bear good information and certainly give us a chance to adjudicate. I mean, staff are always going to move forward with council's will. We're the what, they're the how, but in the end, there are costs to this. But certainly, I know that information was brought forward. Councillor Van Dyke recalls, I'm sure, when it came to committee, we were both very much part of that conversation as well. And so I'm overall, there's going to be more to come, and there'll be a chance to have adjudicate and have those conversations. But I'm pleased it's here, because it continues to be a conversation in the community. And although there's no fait accompli around what we will do, or will there be a budget modification necessary to do this, it will at least give a fair and equitable understanding of what we do in relation to other providers across the province, or what we could do if we are willing to put the money forward. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Van Dyke next, and following that, just potentially if Acting Managing Director Tuchscher has any comments that he would like to make, we'll give him an opportunity to make them. Councillor Van Dyke.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. This is, like has been said by Councillors McGrogan and Dumanowski, something that has come up repeatedly during our term. And I think that a bit of a deeper look at the policy around it and the procedures is just good business and can help alleviate concerns in the community perhaps that people have around fairness. And I don't think this is an unreasonable request, and I think that it gives us the opportunity to show a basis or justification for the existing policy or review it for potential changes if we find that it's not in alignment with other service providers. Thank you.
Acting Managing Director?
Sure, just to provide a few comments. In the business case that was provided in the 25-26 budget, we did talk about the jurisdictional or how others handle this. So the City of Lethbridge, NMAX, Sask Power, and ATCO all would have done the methodology that we proposed in the business case, which would be for the city to fund for the transformers, and the customer would be responsible for the infrastructure to their property line after the transformer. Currently, us and Red Deer follow the similar methodology where currently today, if a customer requires an upgrade to their service and that has to include a transformer upgrade, they would pay for that transformer upgrade. So that's the current policy now, and the proposal was to go to more like the other communities like Lethbridge and NMAX do, where we would fund the transformer, it would go into our rate base, and we'd recover our costs that way.
Councillor McGrogan, do you have any final comments?
I don't, but thank you for the clarity. And again, I want to be clear that I'm not suggesting we revisit that budget. You might find over the next, some more, if you do any more exploration, that there's another model that you could land on. I'm not saying it has to be that one, but I'm going to obviously leave that in our city manager's hands to determine where we land on this. And I do appreciate the work, and I think at the end of the day, if it was a perfect world, we would see a nice guideline where people, you go, here you go, this is how we're going to deal with it, and it's clear to everybody. And that's, I think, that would just be very helpful. So thank you.
Councillor Hyder.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'd just like to thank Councilor McGrogan for bringing this forward again. I too have had calls from citizens that I was kind of surprised to the cost of these transformers when building a house or doing renovations and such and things like that. So I think it's important that we go back and have a look at things. I appreciate Acting Managing Director Tuksher's explanation. That was, I appreciate that and the clarity. So thank you. Thanks, Andy.
Councillor Van Dyke.
Thank you through the chair. Apologies, one additional question. In any of the work that you had previously done around this, is there any communities that do this on a prorated basis dependent on the age of the transformer? And you don't have to answer that now if you don't know, but it's just a curiosity to me because replacing a 25-year-old transformer and paying the full cost when it could fail on its own and then have to be replaced at full cost by the city, you know, I think there's questions around that from community members.
Yeah, we had considered or looked into that methodology as well. Part of the challenge with that is kind of more of the management and the billing, looking at, you know, what is the prorated portion and making sure customers are kept whole for the portion that's already been spent on that transformer. So it's a little more administrative, but we did consider that as an option.
Councillor Dumanowski.
Just very briefly. So I appreciate the information that the acting manager brought forward. And I think to Councillor McGrogan's motion, we certainly will ask, you are asking for more information, comparisons, et cetera, to come back. I just want to make sure that's not lost. I do know, and to your point, Councillor Van Dyke, around prorating or means or mechanisms to offset the cost. So that I know there were examples in other jurisdictions where a portion of it is covered and part of it is paid by the applicant, or it's paid back over time by the applicant, et cetera. My whole point is that we need to be, we need to have a different lens on this, because the fact of the matter is a lot of the old service provisions were quite, we would maybe argue are antiquated now, and the amperage requirements for the typical house has changed and is pivoting, not the likes of which a good example is the need for additional electrification, which is a big conversation around electrical vehicles and charging, stations, et cetera. So it's not just people are frustrated and so they're speaking out to their elected people to see if they can get any move there. There's a change. Change requires us to go back to the proven policies that we've used appropriately for years, if not decades, and take a different look at it. And I think we need to, I'm putting my cart before the horse, but I think we need to do things a little differently, and I certainly hope that will yield some kind of a favorable result for everyone once that information comes forward.
Acting Managing Director Tuksher, what do you see coming out of this that would be in addition to what the information is that you already have provided?
I'll have to go back to Director Motch and see exactly other options he looked at. Like I said, I know we had looked at the pro rata and administration of that proposal, and we've also looked at, like I said, this new proposal where the city would fund it and it would be in our rate base. And then obviously there's the existing methodology we use. So those are at least three that we've looked at. I can see if there was other options he had already looked at. We can review and see if there's anything else new that's come up and provide an update to that information we've provided previously.
Thank you. City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, through the chair. Just that we'll look at all options, but we'd like to have an opportunity to go back, should this be passed, and strategize with administration to talk about next steps if we could.
Seeing no further speakers, we will vote on the motion. That is passed unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a written inquiry from Councilmember Sharps regarding the mustard seed. So Councilor Sharps, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Clerk. Okay, through the chair. So I had asked for an inquiry onto this. So MPC met in January and we had made a decision on the mustard seed. And so during that meeting, we had asked a lot of questions, trying to make sure that the community had information on what the next steps were in the processes. And I think during all of this time, some information was not completely either gotten across properly or received properly. I feel like I didn't get really good information, and that's not a dig, it's just my feeling of how I didn't even understand it, and I said on MPC. I thought it was pretty clear what the next steps were, and it ended up being not clear. So as a community member, I got it the very next day. I got emails and phone calls, and of course the place was operating and there was all sorts of things happening. So I had asked administration to give us an update on this particular item.
City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, through the chair. There has been some conversations administratively with the province and with our community members. And so it's a cross-jurisdictional effort. So I will turn it over to Managing Director Bohan first, and then if we could go to Managing Director Hutter second.
Managing Director Bohan.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and to Councillor Sharps. This is a challenging issue for our community, and I understand that council's been fielding calls, as has administration, on this issue. And it's a difficult one because of the jurisdictional requirements and the requirements we have with a number of policies and requirements, which I believe was at the heart of the question from Councillor Sharps. Back in December 20th, we did lay out the potential outcomes. And I understand how sometimes those frequently asked questions that end up on the city website do get, I wouldn't say the word buried, but let's say they become challenging to locate. And I think we could do a little better in terms of how we highlight some of these contentious issues in the community. But back in December 20th, there was a fairly extensive frequently asked questions document that did lay out what would happen should the Municipal Planning Commission refuse the application from the applicant. And in there, it did state that the applicant would have at that time, and again, this was a month prior to the MPC taking place, 21-day appeal. So post that decision by the Municipal Planning Commission on January 15th, that did in fact enter a 21-day appeal period. In alignment with our standard enforcement protocols and in our planning and development experience, we did initiate reasonable enforcement action in accordance with our land use bylaw section 2.1 and 3.5. As well, we did adhere to the Municipal Government Act section 683. As part of this action, we were required to observe continued operations, or we were required to observe that a violation was taking place. We did so, and a notice of noncompliance was issued. After continued observations of noncompliance and with reasonable discretion, a stop order was issued on February 6th, which launched an additional 21-day appeal period. And within the order, it was specified all operations must be discontinued within 25 days, which takes us to March the 3rd. Should activities continue after March the 3rd, we would then embark on additional enforcement process, which would be considered, again, reasonable remedy. That said, anecdotally, I have spoken with the executive from the mustard seed, and they've advised the city that they intend to cease operations on the 28th of February, so next week. So. With that, Madam Mayor, City Manager Mitchell might have some additional commentary.
Thank you very much. Managing Director Hutter was going to have some comments. Do you want to respond? I'll just wait until this is done and then I'll jump in. Managing Director Hutter.
Thank you, and through the chair, yeah, I don't have anything necessarily to add to the communication portion of things, but we do have plans to work in collaboration with both the province and the mustard seed for long-term solutions. So Managing Director Bohan and I have had a number of recent meetings and understand what the expectations are from both the province and the mustard seed, and we'll be working diligently to help find solutions.
Okay, City Manager Mitchell. Councillor Knodel.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the chair, any either or city manager or Managing Director Hutter could likely answer this question, and I understand it's probably not going to be a direct answer, but I'm just curious for those who are following the process and are invested in a solution or invested in the hope that we find a solution. Is there, in your perspective, any particular events that you see could or should happen in the next chunk of time in order to come to a conclusion to this problem? Like if we think of the best possible situation, what do you imagine in the middle of that? What does that look like?
City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, through the chair. There is a lot of collaboration happening right now, which I think is a really good thing. Council clearly outlined in October their updated strategic pillar, and this is really something that Council wants to address. Administration has been working very closely with the nonprofits, everybody who provides service in the community with the mustard seed and the province. And we've got a really open line of communication, which in my mind is the start of true collaboration. Is it an easy problem to solve? Absolutely not. But given that this is one of council's priorities and we will be having this task force that will be starting very shortly, I think that is getting everybody to the table and having the conversations and keeping the open line of communication. I would say that, if anything, we would hope that all the parties could just work in the process and trust the process and see if we can all find a solution together. It's not going to be easy. And we would like to see that through this year and this summer that we do not, this has to stay right at the top of our radar, in my mind. If it stays at the top of the radar, because we don't want to be here next winter, and we do need long-term solutions. But as Managing Director Hutter has said, we are committed administratively and politically to finding a solution long-term. That helps everybody. And, you know, maybe everybody walks away not completely satisfied, but we do find a solution for the community.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Through the chair to City Manager Mitchell, 2 questions. What do you see is the biggest barrier to finding a solution right now? And secondly, how can council best support the forward momentum of a solution?
City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think I could just ask everybody for patience. And I think that these solutions are not easy. So I think dealing in fact rather than rumor or innuendo is really helpful. To not be blaming, to understand that we're all here to work together, I think that is critical. And I think that's the answer that's going to move us forward. Thank you.
Councillor Sharps.
Sorry, thank you. I just had a couple of comments to my question. I appreciate the update, and I agree with you, City Manager. We all have to work together. And as I read the FAQs over the weekend, and it's very technical. It's for people that maybe are in planning. It's not necessarily for the community. So I guess I would ask if you took a set of fresh eyes and asked a grade 6 student or just somebody that doesn't do this for a living or has to read this, do they understand what the process is and what the dates are? The answer is no. So I guess you're right, it's not about blame, but it sure is about communication. So I think that everybody intended good communication, but maybe it wasn't heard. And I'm going to say, I'm not blaming that on the community. The FAQs are, I find they're confusing. So I get this and then I get that. So I'm wondering, because you made it very clear, Managing Director, that it was a stepped process. Is that something we can just communicate? Like, is there, why, like not so cloak and dagger, just this is what's going to happen on this date. MPC met, this is what happens on this date. Like, is that so simplistic or what?
Managing Director Bohan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Sharps. Yeah, I think we could always do a better job in our public communication. I know we've taken great steps to improve public participation on other parts of the city business. I think we could definitely do a better job of making these complicated legal terms a little easier to understand. I have to give full credit to our planning and development team, though they have tried to make this complicated Municipal Government Act, land use bylaw, which is 183 some pages. It's very difficult to do and a challenge, but we're up to a challenge to try and do a better job of that communication. So.
Thank you. And just a reminder to administration, I think there's a policy coming my way, City Manager. Thank you.
Do you want to clarify what policy you're looking for?
Sorry, you didn't like that? Cloak and dagger? Didn't I just tell them that? Okay. Okay, so just for anybody else, I had sent an email over the weekend and City Manager had responded that there's a policy in place and I just asked for it because I couldn't find it. So if that's forthcoming? Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Robbins.
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, I just wanted to say a couple of things again, because the mustard seed is within my neighborhood, as I've said many times, lived in the flats over 20 years. So I just wanted to sort of thank the neighbors and business of the flats for being willing to come out and publicly present information about the difficulties that they were having. I also, early in my time in office, got a chance to tour the mustard seed and to see the very important and good work that they were doing. And I've always felt that the solution to the problem really needs to be a 24/7 shelter where all of the services offered could be in one place. For a lot of reasons, that is in the best interest of the vulnerable community and also of the city and different neighborhoods. That is a challenge. So I look forward to hearing from our city administration more about it. I did also want to mention that I saw some social media posts from the mustard seed, knowing that they're still looking for donations, which there's a number you can call if you have clothing donations at this time of year. I'm sure that would be greatly appreciated, any financial donations. And so they're still serving this community. I think that's really important to know, that they're not able to operate in the spot that they were, but they are still providing service to the community and lots of supports around them. And I just thought if anyone was concerned or felt that they had something to donate that might be helpful to this vulnerable community, just reach out to the mustard seed. I'm sure they'd be happy to take that and make arrangements to get that from you and pass it along to someone who really needs it. Anyway, thank you. I look forward to hearing more about this.
Councillor Knodel.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, through the chair. This will be very brief and is connected to what Councillor Robin just said. The mustard seed has also posted that they're looking for delivery drivers as they're providing food to people out in the community who are without a home. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? So can I get clarity on the things that are permitted to occur at the Allowance Avenue site?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would have to get back to you with what is permitted. I mean, we've taken a look at what the the development permit requested. I'd have to get back to you and counsel with that.
Thank you very much. I just want to concur with what's been said about the importance of clear communication. I think sometimes we think more about the output of communication than the outcomes of the communication. And really, if our community doesn't understand what we're communicating, then it hasn't been as successful. And as you said, Managing Director Bohan, maybe time to go back to the drawing board a little bit to, take a look at what our able planning people have put together and take a look at it from fresh eyes that maybe don't live and breathe it quite so much. And but certainly a lot of work has been done to, I know they've received a lot of correspondence and have done their best to reply where possible. So we don't have a motion on this item. Do you have any further comments, Councillor Sharps?
No, I almost feel like this needs to be like on the DNI Standing Committee until this gets progress. I mean, our community's watching, they want to understand. I see community housings in the building. I think we've got a bunch of vested partners and we have a community, including the residents of the Mustard Seed, that are all very interested. So I think everybody's heart's in the right place, those that want to make sure that the vulnerable are taken care of, but there's also nothing wrong with making sure that your own homes are taken care of. So I believe everybody's focusing the right way. So can we get this on the DNI outstanding items? Would that be?
You could certainly make that motion. I think that's a reasonable motion. And I think, a lot of this has to do with, all the different vulnerable people involved. You know, there's the businesses, there's the vulnerable people, their friends and family, the neighbors, the children of the neighbors, all of those things. I think providing some comfort that this is on our radar.
I agree.
Would be helpful.
Well, I would make the motion to put that on the DNI. Sure. Oh, Chair. Should I finish my motion
Yeah,
first?
just finish your
Okay,
motion.
thank you. So I direct administration to put that on, to ensure that it's on the outstanding items list, oil list, for the development and infrastructure meeting.
So council directs administration to include the mustard seed update on the development and infrastructure action items list.
Correct.
Can we get a seconder for that?
I can second that.
Thank you. City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, through the chair, and not to belabor this, but it's not just a D&I issue, so I'm wondering if it can also be put on the administration list that the clerk looks after to make sure, because I'm wondering if it should be on the D&I list and also on the public service list, because both are dealing with this issue. So just to make sure that there's crossover.
You know what, if it doesn't need to be on DNI, I'm okay with that. I don't really care where it is.
As long
but-
as,
Oh, yeah, because I'm going to follow this.
Yeah.
So I just figured if it was my committee, then nobody could be
No, I was-
complaining after the fact.
I was just thinking if we have the clerk put it on the administration outstanding list, so that it'll be every admin committee that we'd be discussing
Okay.
it. Thank you.
So the motion is still just Development and Infrastructure Committee. And that has been seconded. So to include the mustard seed update on the Development and Infrastructure Committee, which is a public-facing committee, and so that's Councillor Robbins.
Yes, thank you, and through the chair, I was actually going to make the same point as City Manager Mitchell, that I think it sits probably more comfortably in public services. There are, community development is involved, and we have staff and community development that also works closely with other stakeholders like Medicine Community Housing Society, and so I think that there's probably a deeper connection within that community response in public services than not the DNI is not doing good work, but they're more on the technical side as opposed to the community development side. So I just think it sits better there. So I'm not going to vote for this motion.
Would you like to make a motion to amend?
I could make a motion to amend. I think Councillor Sharps wants to make a
I
comment.
just would like to make a comment that this does, I actually do kind of prefer the dual, and here's why, because planning and development reports up to DNI. So that's where the development permits and all that is going to come. So even, it would take longer to reroute through public service and then back to DNI, whereas but they were just both coming up to committee at the same time, both ends get it.
Would anyone like to make a motion to amend?
I will make a motion to amend and just to add Development and Infrastructure Committee and Public Services Committee, and while we're at it, Administrative Committee. And then we've got lots of reasons to report back.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or debate on the amendment to the motion? Okay, we'll vote on the amendment to the motion. That passes. Any further comments or discussion on the motion as amended? Seeing none, we'll vote on the amended motion. And that passes unanimously. So there's no committee business, which takes us to notices of motion, and I have to bring us back to 8.5 because we have yet to receive that for information. So if I could get, so this is not saying agreement with it, it's just that we're receiving it for information. So if I could get a motion to receive 8.5.
I will make that motion to receive 8.5.
Second.
Thank you, and we'll vote on that. That passes unanimously. And now we will hear from Councillor Sharps regarding her notice of motion. Just a reminder again that a notice of motion is just as it says, providing the community and council with advice that a motion will be coming as indicated by Councillor Sharps at our next meeting. Go ahead, Councillor Sharps.
Thank you. So I'm just, I think it's such a complicated subject that I'm just going to restate the background information, if that's okay, and then I'll read my motion. So background information is on December 16th, City Council instructed administration to conduct a jurisdictional scan. I don't know, I can't say that word today. Jurisdictional scan regarding the KVA range in the medium commercial class. The consultant's findings indicate that the demand energy for Medicine Hat's medium commercial rate class was comparable to that of other jurisdictions, with some nuances. The analysis focused on 6 municipalities where the medium commercial classification begins at a demand range of 25 kVA. However, after reviewing the data, it appears that 50 kVA should be considered the minimum threshold, as anything below 50 kVA still falls under the small commercial category. So all other municipalities started at a 50 kVA, and that's why I'm bringing this motion forward. So I would like to submit this notice of motion directing administration to provide the potential financial impact to all ratepayers regardless of class by adjusting the medium commercial rates to 50 kVA with a consumption greater than 5,000 kilowatts. By extension, this would propose making the small commercial classification defined as those with a demand up to 49 kVA and a consumption of less than 5,000 kilowatts per month. Additionally, I request the council direct administration to provide communication options to ratepayers when they exceed the threshold, including consideration of a 60-day grace period to understand and address the factors contributing to their increased consumption.
So the motion is from the therefore on.
I cannot read that. Would you mind reading that? Sorry, I cannot, because I did have a verbiage change here, and I just want to make sure that's in. Oh, cheeky Stephanie, but can you do it bigger? No, I'm kidding. I can squint and see that.
Therefore, the motion reads, and we don't need a seconder today, so we're just notifying of this motion for next council meeting. Therefore, I would like,
Okay,
I
consumption,
think
yeah, that's right.
I would suggest,
Yes.
if I may.
Please.
Therefore, council directs administration.
See, that sounds like a great idea.
Thanks. Council directs administration to provide the potential financial impact to all ratepayers regardless of class by adjusting the medium commercial rates to 50 kVA with
A consumption greater than 5,000 kilowatts.
By extension, this would propose making the small commercial classification be defined as those with a demand of up to 49 kVA or kilowatts, kilovolts per, can you tell me kVA again? Okay, thank you. And a consumption of less than 5,000 kilowatts per month, kilowatt hours per month.
Right, and then there was an additionally, I don't know if that's on the screen, yeah.
Additionally, I request that council direct administration to provide communication options to ratepayers when they exceed the threshold, including consideration of a 60-day grace period to understand and address the factors contributing to their increased consumption.
That would be correct. Yes, that's it.
All right. Acting Managing Director Tuchscher, if you can make a comment now, but this notice of motion isn't going to come before council until next meeting. All right. Seeing no further council business, this meeting is adjourned at 7:36 p.m.